Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Deontay Wilder says that Tyson Fury is coming up with a master plan to cheat again in their trilogy fight, as he insists he wasn't knocked out in the rematch. Oh, dear, oh dear, oh dear. Psychotics Anonymous. Deontay Wilder really is away with the fair. He's a complete space cadet at this point. I say at this point, he's been a space cadet for a long time. But the beating Tyson Fury gave him in that rematch hasn't brought him down to earth. If anything, it's made him even more delusional. Isn't that incredible? There's a few people in my Discord server who've said to me they think Deontay Wilder might quit in the Tyson Fury trilogy fight if he's taken another beating. Because, their reason for saying this is Deontay is delusional. Once he starts taking a beating from Tyson Fury and realizes that all the excuses he came up with for losing the second fight were fantasy, and reality dawns on him, that's when he'll panic and say, oh gosh, I need to get out of here. I'm in trouble. There are no excuses this time. But judging by what Wilder is saying here, he's already preparing his excuses in his own mind. He's saying Fury is getting ready to cheat again. Honestly, I have never seen a heavyweight champion in my entire life who is as delusional as Deontay Wilder. It is incredible. Now, there's a YouTube channel, much bigger channel than mine, an American channel, which was very pro-Wilder for a long time. Not that they didn't ever criticize him, not that they didn't ever put opposing arguments to Wilder, because they did. But recently they have fallen foul of Wilder's delusional mindset and the delusional mindset of the diehard Wilder fanatics, because of doing an interview with Chris Colbert where Colbert was critical of Wilder. And just based off doing that interview with Colbert, this channel has now got huge backlash from Wilder's fans and apparently from Wilder's team. That doesn't surprise me, and that channel shouldn't be surprised. I mean, surely being as close to Wilder as they were, they must have sensed that something was a bit off about this guy. They must have sensed that. It doesn't take Freud, okay, to figure out, or it doesn't take Freud or Jung or any top-level psychiatrist or psychologist to figure out that Deontay Wilder is not all there upstairs. That is apparent and obvious to anyone with more than 2 brain cells on active duty. Let this be a lesson to people within that Deontay Wilder fan base, particularly media. Let this be a lesson to them that this guy will turn on you. His fans will turn on you if ever you try to apply any ounce of objectivity with regards to Deontay Wilder, his fights, his opponents, and so on. This is a guy, and this is a cult, a fan base that demand extreme bias in favor of Wilder, cult-like devotion to their cult leader. This is what they demand. Anything less than that, and you're an enemy to these people. So let it be a lesson. And like I say, this, I don't want to call it a claim, but a possibility that people have floated about that Wilder could quit in the Tyson Fury trilogy fight. I see where they're coming from. It's definitely a possibility, But it has to be said, Wilder has never shown any quit in him before. That rematch with Tyson Fury was real tough. A terrible beating he was taking there. And he didn't want to be pulled out. I mean, his recollection of events is just staggeringly different to what actually happened. At one stage, Deontay Wilder actually said that Tyson Fury was slowing down by that 7th round. And he basically implied that he had Fury right where he wanted him. So, the mindset of Wilder is just unbelievably delusional. Maybe, and by the way, it's that mindset that kept him in the fight. I'm not saying he was in the fight in terms of being competitive, because he wasn't. But I'm talking about mentally is what kept him in the fight, is his delusion. And this is the thing about boxing. This is the thing about anything in life. But with regards to boxing, even more so, because it's extreme. It's an extreme sport. It's an extreme environment that you're in. Because you're not only fighting another man who could potentially kill you in the ring, but you're doing it in front of millions of people watching. The stakes are so high. The pressure is so intense. In order to succeed in that type of environment, you can't have a normal mentality. You have to have an extremely elevated ego, sense of self-worth and self-importance. You have to. You might disguise it from the public. It might only be in relation to your ability to fight. You might be humble in other aspects of life, but when it comes to your fighting ability, you have to have a tremendous ego. And somebody like Deontay Wilder, who doesn't have the skills of most heavyweight champions, obviously he's not a heavyweight champion at the moment, but he was for a long time. He doesn't have the skills of most heavyweight champions. He's got heart, aggression, punching power, and dimensions. He's tall, rangy, and awkward, and speed. But he's also got that belief. And that belief, I've said before, there's a thin line between self-belief and self-delusion. Very thin line. And most top-level fighters are walking that line. I remember Evander Holyfield back in the days. Towards the end of his career, it was clear that he was going on for too long and he couldn't let go. And the reason he couldn't let go is because ever since he was a little kid and he first started boxing, people were telling him that he couldn't do it. But he ignored those people. And he said, no, I can do it. And once you prove yourself right and prove your naysayers wrong time and time again, you trust yourself and your own judgment more so than you trust the judgment of the public. So by the time he's fighting Mike Tyson the first time around, and people are sending Holyfield get well soon cards before the fight, and he's a 25-1 underdog, everybody's thinking Holyfield's going to get destroyed. He doesn't care what people think. He's come to trust his own judgment far more than the judgment of others. But that's a double-edged sword, that type of belief. Because later on, Holyfield is up into his late 30s. He's fighting John Ruizes and Chris Birds and people like that. James Toney. And it's like, when is this guy going to quit? He's clearly not what he used to be. People are telling him it's time to pack it up, Evander, but people have been telling him it's time to retire for at least 10 years prior to that? People were telling him to retire after the Riddick Bowe fight, the first fight. So this is the issue that you get with a lot of fighters, is self-belief turning into delusion. Because they've trusted their own judgment for so long and it's taken them so far. But eventually, it becomes their downfall. Will it be Deontay Wilder's downfall in this fight here against Tyson Fury, the trilogy fight? And if it is, what form will that take? Will it just be Deontay getting another beating? Getting knocked out properly? The referee stepping in to stop it? Or will it be him quitting on the stool? I can't discount the possibility. There are some fighters who show tremendous heart, but eventually they end up quitting. Even Holyfield ended up quitting. He quit against Sherman Williams. Never quit previously in a fight. He did show kind of signs that he maybe wanted to quit against James Toney when he got up. But he'd shown tremendous heart for so many years. You see, courage, not only stamina, but courage is like a well where you go to that well and one day it's dry. I can't say it's going to be dry for all fighters one day, but for most fighters, that's how it goes. You go to the well looking for courage and it's empty. And you find yourself quitting when previously in your career you never quit before. Will Deontay Wilder go to that well in this Tyson Fury trilogy fight and find no courage left in that well? We'll see. He certainly hasn't, I have to reiterate this, he hasn't shown any quitting in before. As much as we criticize Deontay Wilder, and justifiably so, we have to give him credit for showing tremendous heart against Tyson Fury. Tremendous heart, because he wasn't in the fight at all. He was taking a beating from the first round to the 7th. Gotta give him credit for that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Wilder and his delusions. Will it help him in this fight? Will it hinder him in this fight? Could it get him seriously hurt in this fight? I certainly hope not. Because he instructed his corner not to stop the fight last time. Now he's going to have Malik Scott, JD's. Will either of them dare to stop the fight? You let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide range of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&A sessions, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high quality MP3. We've also got a Discord server where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. There's no contract, no commitment, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.